20 years ago, when AIDS was first recognised, it was a rapidly fatal disease. But these days, thanks to medications, it's become a chronic illness, with HIV being held in check. But over the years, there have been tantalising examples where people have managed to keep HIV in check themselves. Some prostitutes in Nairobi, and for a while, a group of HIV-positive men in Sydney found by the Sydney Blood Bank. In both these situations, scientists were able to find out a lot about how the immune system fights the virus and the virus itself. Now, again in Sydney, there's a man who seems to be keeping HIV in check himself, and no one knows why. The answer, when it comes, could be enormously important. Rachel Friend has the story.
I was tested in December 1991 as a result of having suffered shingles. It looked pretty ominous, and my GP at the time advised me to have an HIV test.
When I first met Peter, he was HIV positive. He had had 2 AIDS-defining diseases, which was shingles, and he had a uveitis, which was ascribed by the eye hospital as being HIV-related.
At that time, HIV was not a treatable illness. Peter Hickson was seriously ill, while his partner of many years was dying of AIDS. His GP, Dr. Graham Harris, warned that short of a miracle, nothing could be done.
His prognosis was very guarded and was not very good, and at that stage there was no triple therapy, no protease inhibitors, so there was nothing really much that you would have thought that could have been done for him.
2 years later, Peter buried his partner and prepared for the worst.
I was devastated. I remember being numb with fear. I had to put things into perspective, get a grip, pull myself together, and I had to get on with it.
But in what's proving to be one of the great medical mysteries, Peter not only bounced back, but seems to have beaten HIV. It's been 7 years since he's had any treatment. His viral loads are so low, doctors are unable to detect any trace of an active virus. Somehow, Peter's won himself a second chance at life. And not only that, scientists believe he may hold the key to helping millions of others infected with HIV.
So what we have done today is to amplify Peter's HIV genomes. That is the
Immunologist Wayne Dyer and virologist Nitin Saxena are working with a team of scientists to try and establish how and why Peter's body was able to fight off HIV.
He's a patient where the virus has not evolved for the last 7-year period. And that is one remarkable fact which discriminates him from the rest of the patients. And this is a phenomenon which is practically non-existent. It's very rare to see where a complete absence of viral evolution can occur in a patient.
With the benefit of treatment, some patients infected by HIV are called slow progressors. This means that their bodies are able to function without illness for a long period of time, despite carrying the virus, which slowly evolves and replicates. Eventually, though, the virus will cause AIDS. In Peter's case, however, his body has managed to completely silence or paralyse the virus. Incredibly, tests fail to find any living trace of HIV.
If we can actually tease out how these strong immune responses are induced in the first place, we can then actually replicate that in other infected people, and that could be a very major breakthrough in terms of immune-based therapies.
But getting to the bottom of Peter's miraculous recovery is no easy feat. Following the death of his partner, Peter embarked on a mission to try and buy himself more time. He participated in a vaccine trial, an interferon trial, and even tried microwave therapy, which at that time was a controversial treatment for cancer.
About 1994, I started putting on weight. That was the first surprise. I used to weigh myself weekly, and I couldn't believe the kilos were piling on.
While the experts are at a loss to explain why, when Peter's blood is infected by different strains of HIV in a test tube, his immune cells resist infection. If scientists are able to identify and then replicate the antiviral component from Peter's cells, they can work on creating a natural vaccine. What are the odds of finding a patient like Peter?
We're dealing with an extremely small proportion of individuals who are HIV infected. The fact is, people like Peter may be the only handful of the entire infected population in the world.
It has been 4 years since we have been researching on Peter, and still there's a lot to learn. It's like a patchwork story. We have to put everything together in order to find out what are the active mechanisms which we can potentially use in the future, for the benefit of other patients.
This is the healthiest I've ever been. And I mean, I'm in my early 50s now, and life's sweet. On all levels, it's good.
A lucky man indeed. Well, at least so far. I hope you've enjoyed this week's programme. For more information, you can always go to our website, and that's at abc.net.au/dimensions. Next week on the programme...